Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
I got the banter topic.
Okay, go for it.
I said it the other day, and you were like, "Oh, we're not doing that."
Oh, really?
I think it was like, "What is the most uncomfortable thing that's happened to you this week?"
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you go first.
I am? All right.
Okay, he's chewing ice.
Apologize for the ice that I'm chewing in the tap water ice that I'm drinking or eating. Nate. But yeah, by the way, if you guys spend a lot of dough on getting nice clean water, and then you eat a bunch of ice that's made from tap water, it's about this. It's just negating what you're doing. I was like, we got this nice new filter of water in our house, and I was so pumped because finally we have a freezer that has like an ice machine, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is just rigged up to like the regular old tap water. That's not. I can't do that. So I'm back to using the trays of ice in the freezer, which is fine. Okay, most uncomfortable thing this week. Yesterday, I was having a pretty good. I've been having a pretty good week, which is a nice change of pace. I've had a couple challenging weeks from like a emotional mental health standpoint, just a little bit of overwhelm. But this week was going good, and then it was time for couples therapy yesterday.
Oh. And
went in mostly a positive frame of mind. And I will hear some things sometimes, and I just create my own story about it. Something that my wife wants more of from me. It might not mean that I'm not giving it to her. It's just like, hey, I like that about you. I want more of that. But of course, I sometimes can take it to mean like, I'm not even able to, I'm incapable of doing that. Like, I'm not, I must be like creating a miserable life for you because I can't provide this thing, or whatever I heard in that moment of the therapy session. It really sent me on a rough course. Like, I have a tendency in, if I'm feeling some shame or I'm feeling something about me that's inadequate, like I'll kind of shut down and I'll go really internal. And anyway, it's about 2 hours yesterday where I spent in that very uncomfortable place. And, we went to bed and woke up this morning, like very much in love. And like, I was very happy to be next to her. But like in those 2 hours, I was like, is this what's going on? Like, why am I such a, why am I like, I was just playing this story over and over in my head. Like, why am I no good as a husband? Like I suck. And that's just an uncomfortable place to be. So I spent a good solid 2 hours in that yesterday.
Okay.
Satya. I just laid it out there. Your turn.
Well, you laid it out there and you said that there was something that had caused that, but it's like we don't know the whole story. And so that's the whole thing. When you say we're going to have like the vulnerable moment on the podcast, or we're going to like lay out our most uncomfortable moment, to me, I'm like, in our last podcast episode, we were talking about the all or nothing approach. This is where I take the all or nothing approach. I'm like, I'm either going for the jugular and it's just going to like put my whole guts on the table and everyone's going to know all my biz, or like,
Okay, well, I'll take it another step then.
Take it up a notch.
This is the I desperately want, not desperate wasn't used, but I long for my husband to be more accessible to me, be more playful, be more joyful in our family and with me. Interpretation. I'm very much in my head. I'm not, when there's bids for my playfulness and fun in the house, if I'm in a mental space, I don't go there. I will sit and watch my wife and my two girls jump and play and be silly in the evening, and I can see it happening and I think it's beautiful, but if I'm preoccupied with a thought or some anxious feeling that I might be having, some fear that's going on in my head, which is always surrounding this business or my job or my career or finances, I won't participate. I can't feel myself participating in that. And it happens throughout my life, but it's kind of there's been a swell of that lately, where there's been a lot of me. I've been in that preoccupation state more times than not. And the feeling, from the people around me, Megan can articulate it, my kids can't yet, is, oh, we kind of want playful, fun dad. Yeah. Where is he? Why isn't he here? We see him like once in a while, but he's not around that much. And yeah, that feels really, it's really hard to accept, because I know it's happening. I kind of pretend like it's just happening in my own brain and like nobody can see and nobody can feel it, but they can feel it, and it happens right there, and they're impacted by it. And I feel really like I'll hear it sometimes and I'll be defensive. I'm like, but you know how much like pain I'm going through, or like how much preoccupation, how much fear I'm feeling? Like, forget the fact that I can't show up in this way, but like I'm struggling, why aren't we talking about that? But really, that's like me just wanting to, defend my position of like, yeah, you're right. I've been less accessible lately than I want to be. And it's hard to accept, like, I'm not doing the best job that I can right now as a husband or as a dad, like, and it's not because I'm so excited and over here distracted by this like new shiny thing. It's like I'm over here like kind of just stuck in my own head, having anxious, fearful thoughts that keep me from like seeing that my life is really beautiful right in front of me right now. Yeah. And I know other people can relate to that. I mentioned it just very, very loosely and generally on social media the other day in a story. And it was like it was at a height of a moment where I was like, I'm feeling this right now. Like the rest of the world almost doesn't even exist, because I'm so focused on my own anxious thoughts right now that, like, my darling girls could run out here in their, frozen costumes and playful and fun, and I would smile and I would say something to them, but I wouldn't be able to really take it all in. And that's in that moment that I expressed and I shared, got more comments and direct messages. People will give me thumbs up, be like, oh, that was cool, or hey, that was this, or ask a quick question on DM. But I got paragraphs of text describing people's stories, saying, thanking me for even bringing it up, in the close to hundreds of messages. And that was pretty profound to just see and experience, like, okay, take a step to just be vulnerable or say something. It wasn't the most vulnerable. That was like JV level vulnerability on social media, where you like post a picture, and you just say something kind of vague.
Yeah, vague book.
Yeah, but it got a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's out there now. Great.
Okay.
All right, you don't have to go.
No, I'll go. I'll say something.
Okay.
We've had a difficult week at work, and there have been a number of situations that have really brought up for me sometimes how difficult it's been to be in a managerial role, and like in a sort of, I'm your business partner. And so there are a lot of decisions that we make that I'm very aware that it's hard to bring everybody in to see the vision of where we're going. And there have been difficult steps along the way in terms of communication, where I feel like a lot can get lost in interpretation. And so a lot of that just leads me back to struggling with sometimes the pressure of wanting to get it right really badly, not just for the business, but for everybody who's involved in it. And I just feel sometimes that that's an impossible situation to be in, because sometimes you have to make decisions that people don't like or give direction. And it's challenging to know that those might not be received favorably, but you still have to make those calls anyway. And the second piece of that is that we've had some discussions this week behind the scenes about potentially getting some outside people, a group, to look at our marketing work and potentially give some advisement on some strategic decisions that we could be making in that realm. And I think a lot of people, probably especially women, can relate to this, but there's just always a level of imposter syndrome under the surface. So I've been contributing in lots of ways to this business ever since it was born, you know, in the online program capacity at least, and feel really confident about what I bring to the table. And then at the same time, there's such vulnerability for me in having my work about to be looked at and examined under the microscope by an outside party, because it's like the fear is like, oh, they're going to find out that like Sati is not cut out for this, and like you should actually go like, you know, in a totally different direction with like who your marketing person or your business partner should be. And it's like, this is all wrong. It's like, that's the fear, is like all of that is going to come out on the table. So those are my vulnerable moments of the week.
Well, thank you for bringing that all forward. And I think, yeah, I think it's important that I hear a lot of people talking about, hey, let's share our wins for this week. Let's share all the positive stuff. And I don't think that's wrong. I think that that's really powerful too. I think, you know, I think a lot of people can get stuck in thinking about the challenges and the negativity and the things that they don't love about their day-to-day life. And you know, we're looking for balance here, where it's like, okay, well, let's talk about a win. What was really positive? But this isn't really us just like, you know, griping about what's not good in our life. It's like taking a look at like what was really uncomfortable for you, and maybe a different topic. I think I kind of went this way a little bit. Yours was a little bit of a different angle, but it's like, what's something that's like really uncomfortable and is really yours? Like own this thing. Like, I don't have anybody I can really point the finger at for any of this. You know, it's like I'm having a hard time with this. I'm struggling, and I'm contributing a lot to what's happening. I mean, I think that's a practice, and that's something that I don't know if we people are, you know, our listeners are getting to do that very often. I don't know if I'm doing it enough, you know, like feeling accountable to what, you know, if something's up, like something's difficult, something was challenging, if something you don't like, what's the thing that you're creating? You know, how are you taking ownership of that? How am I taking ownership of that? And I might want to like search for the, you know, the thing that like, I might want to be defensive and defend my position and be like, there's a reason why I can't be accessible right now, because I'm stressed about this thing, which is for this and for that. It's like, fuck. At the end of the day, it's me. Like I'm doing that. I'm the one that's not, you know, present, and I have work that I need to do to be better in this part of my life, because the ask of those around me, or the thing that was uncomfortable, the ask of somebody around me, is not unreasonable at all. It's totally reasonable. It's totally appropriate. And it's so yeah, I think this is like, maybe, you know, what started out as just sort of a let's have a little banter talk back and forth is perhaps more of a topic for people to listen to, which is thinking about what in their life they are struggling with, that they ultimately have to just, it's not like, oh, this was just put on them. It's like, no, this you what are you taking ownership of? Like, what is yours to really work through and to rewrite the script on this thing, rewrite the story that feels so hard, through your own actions, through your own power, through your own admissions. And, that has real power to shift you out of a place of like, I'm a victim, which I feel like sometimes I'm like, I'm a victim over here. I have anxiety and stress and fear. Like, that is hard. Like, why would anybody ask something of me more than just go be healthy and go be happy, you know? Yeah.
Well, it ties into what we had set as the idea for this episode, which was things that we're learning and things that we're loving. And I think that there is a key component of learning, which is being in the super uncomfortable place of having to say, there's something that's not working right now, and I don't know what the answer is yet.
Yeah. Yeah, well, something that I'm learning, and this actually just kind of came through my awareness yesterday. A friend of mine shared a segment from a podcast. I don't even think it was the full podcast, but and it really resonated with me because it's connected to a lot of things that I've been feeling, or at least had some awareness of recently, which is like, I forget the exact title, but it's like reevaluating the concept of being lazy. Like, hey, you're lazy. What does that even mean? Like, I'm lazy because I'm deciding to take a break from trying to produce something or become something, or like, you know, make something happen. I'm actually just going to take a moment to just exist in this world. I want to just be here right now. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be. Like, do we need to earn the right to just be? Or is it our birthright to just exist and to just be? Like, today you can just be in the world, and that's totally okay. You don't have to go produce anything. You don't have to go become something more. You don't have to, work harder for either yourself or for somebody else. Like, you don't have to do that, even though society says that that's great. Like, the moment you stop trying to do that, or you produce or work or do, you're lazy. And lazy has this connotation of like, you're not worth the space that you're taking up. You're not worth being, out there in the world, just being and being present, and, taking a moment to just like experience life that you're in. And that was kind of like this thought, like, I'm a product of a system that really rewarded, acknowledged, and praised productivity, getting things done, accomplishing things, earning good marks, winning points, all of which took required work to get there, discipline, and that I never once, that's actually not true. There were some brief periods in my life where this was something that was praised, but rarely was I ever praised for like, hey, look at you, just kicking back, doing nothing. Like, you're reading a book. What are you reading? Nothing, just whatever's there. I don't know. Like, good for you. Like, you're just out going for a walk. Like, you getting some exercise? No, I'm just looking at the trees, just hanging out. Like, just want to experience this. Like, that is not the culture that I think a lot of people find themselves in. It's really not the culture I have found myself in a lot, or that I've sought out, or that I've been even paying attention to. I have at times been uncomfortable around people inside, not just my business, but when I've worked around other people, when we were like coworkers, colleagues, like, not I'm the owner, just I'd be uncomfortable. Like, why is this person working as hard as me? Like, I'm working really hard. Why aren't you working harder? You know, like, it makes me uncomfortable because I see them doing a little bit more of just being. They're not, you know, pushing, striving. And it was also like another quote that I saw the other day where it was like this person I follow and I read a lot of their content on a regular basis is like, I am working more and more these days on becoming less of somebody rather than becoming somebody. I want to just be less. I don't want to become anybody anymore. I was like, Jesus, like that is profound thinking as I was seeing, because it's just so, it's so contradictory to like a program that I've followed for years. Like, I got to become somebody. I'm going to be great. There will be a day when I have produced all of the things and I will be like, I will have arrived. And it's like, and when I arrive there, what are all the things that happened in between now and then that I actually really was present and experienced and I just got to be with? And then this like additional feeling of like, can I even take a break? Have I earned the right to take a break? Like, oh my God, I'm taking 2 days to go up to Tahoe and ski and check out. Like, it feels a little uncomfortable. Oh, it really feels uncomfortable. Like, I haven't checked Slack in, 12 hours. Like, I haven't, whatever, right? Like, that's super uncomfortable. And why is it so uncomfortable? It's this construct. It's this program. It's this narrative of like, if you're not doing that, you're lazy. If you're not doing that, you're not going anywhere in life. And I don't, this is not like a I'm not refined in my thinking on this, nor have I arrived at some like very concrete conclusions. And I'm certainly not prepared to say like, hey, everybody just phone it in. Like, don't go to work. Like, don't work anymore. Like, don't do anything. Like, just chill. Like, be lazy. That's the thing, or whatever the term might, just be, I think that would really disrupt a lot of how people can provide, which, for themselves and for others. And that's not necessarily where I'm going with this, but there's certainly a very, there's a problematic and a pathological mentality that we are often fed by society, by by our culture, and that is one of like, you got to go, and if you're not going, well, you're not of value, and we're gonna put a label on you. And then even if you're going, like, somebody else might be going more than you. So like, how are you going to keep up? And the thought, like, what am I learning? I'm learning like, okay, well, perhaps it was that, mental cultural construct that got me, to where I'm at in my life with the measures of success that I have had. But it's also for that reason why, what I find to be such challenges for me in life right now, it's why those are big challenges. Why is it so challenging for me to be really present in moments that are like the best moments of potentially my life, or my kids' lives? And why is it so hard for me to like really turn down the noise and just go and to check out, to go and enjoy and be who I am. And it's super hard to even talk about. Like, it's super hard to say like, yeah, I'm a workaholic, or I'm a overthinker, or I'm a constantly pushing to achieve something greater kind of person, because on the other side of that is like, I can't even accept that like today is the best day ever. It's great. And it's going to be like, there's nothing more I need to do to be completely content right now. End of thought.
So I think that it's a very uncomfortable mindset sometimes to be in the position that you're in when I'm hearing you talk, because it's basically challenging a reframe of a lot of patterns that you've been in for a long time, and a lot of ways that you've constructed your day-to-day existence. And I'm just wondering if there's any intermediary step, any like next step for you in terms of wanting to apply that, because it's such a huge shift from I have this really intense business and life and pressure and training and a lot of really big things happening that are go, 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 that are all constructed out of this fear of being called lazy or not knowing at all how to rest and be present. And what's the dot connector there?
I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty scary because all my solutions and all my tools and all my skills and my pre-programmed like problem solving abilities are to just do more.
Yeah.
Like, the solution to this is just doing more.
Yeah.
You know, where if I just evaluate that, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do my way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, and I don't want to, there's no using the tools that got me here to solve the problem is not going to work. Gonna work.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I feel really, I will say this, I feel really fortunate that I'm at least I take it as a sign that like I'm a couple steps away from finding something, a middle ground that feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those signs are like, I'm here talking about this and, we're talking about it. Like, I'm not just bottling this up, which I think first, as a one take home lesson for listeners today, it's like, take your biggest thing, the scariest thing in your life right now, and find some people, that you can express it with. Because if you can, then you're literally steps away from resolving it. If it's stuck inside of you, that's a much bigger obstacle that you have to overcome. And I'm not saying that's easy, but I feel really thankful and grateful that I'm at least there, and I'm talking about with a lot of people. And I'm talking about it in these public forums, which is freaking nuts to me. It's like, geez, we're not just hanging out here talking. It's like, we have like at least 20 listeners. Thank you guys for taking part in this therapy session. The other thing is that, I can have like a little bit of a sense of humor about it. And I have moments of being able to experience like, that's when I was being, and that felt really good.
Yeah.
And I'm even in a place of like, you know what? It's like I get to just experiment with it. Like, okay, tonight I'm just going to shut my monkey mind off. Okay, let's just see how this goes. Like, what if I just really invest for the next 3 hours with all these, people I love that are in the house, like right now, and I just try it out. Let me try being, a lazy boss and not think about work for the night or for the weekend. I'm going to just shut that off. Let me just try it, right? I feel like I gotten myself into a place, or I'm in a place where I can experiment with that. And that's another thing that I think people, something that Tim Ferriss, I learned many years ago when I was listening to him was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Write it all out. Okay. Like, create that list of like, if you choose to try another approach, the approach that's almost contradictory to the approach that you're on, right? Because you're in a hard place, you're struggling with something, then your choices and your behaviors and your patterns and your programmed approach is part of what got you there. So you're going to have to really change your program to get out of it. All right, well, write out and you're worried, like if I stop worrying about all these things, then everything's going to go to like if I'm not worrying about it, then it is really going to come true. My greatest fears are going to come true. Okay, write out those greatest fears. And typically when you really write it all the way down to like, okay, the worst thing that could happen here is like we lose our house, we have to pull the kids out of their school, and we have to move and, move in with my parents or something like that, or whatever. I don't know. That's, if that's the worst that could happen. Okay. Let me go and just spend a weekend not looking at work and just shut my brain off. And maybe that's a week, or I don't know, like, let me experiment with something and do it in like a reasonable time frame to like actually see, how does this add something back to me? How does this add value? Like, what am I getting from this? How is this filling me up? And did it make me, did the worst thing that could possibly happen come true by taking my attention away from it for 24 hours? Nope, it didn't happen. How about if I took my attention away from it for 48 hours? Okay. How about if I took my attention away from it for a week? What if for the next month, I only gave it 20% of the attention that I was giving before? Is that sending me towards, the worst case scenario where, my fears think I'm going to arrive? And anyhow, those are a couple ways of perhaps approaching these big, scary things that are in your life, that you may feel like there's no way out of this. I think starting with, just finding somebody you can just talk to about it, who's not going to have an answer for you. And that's not the point. It's not to find someone with the answers. It's to find somebody to listen and without judgment, and have you have a place to talk about it and get it out of your head, because that's just energy that's stuck inside of you. And the second is, really, really map out what worst case scenario is, and then start to, if you feel ready, experiment with like, well, let me just try the other program. Let me try the other mental, process, and see if I change that energy. If I get something really rich from doing it the other way, oh, that's positive. That's great. That's making you feel better. That's helping to reprogram your brain a little bit. And if doing that other thing doesn't lead to the catastrophic disaster that you've mapped out in your journal, then that's also a win. It's like, oh, yeah, I did that new thing, and the world did not come to an end on me. Anyhow.
That is one thing I was going to say that I'm learning, the first part of that, which is that I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable within myself, and I'm pretty stoic, so I feel like I can just take a lot, but I really don't know, and I'm learning how to express that, because that's the piece of it that's been missing for me my whole life, because I'm a very careful thinker and speaker, and by the time I say something, I usually have some solution or some piece that I can contribute towards going somewhere with it. And it's very, very difficult for me to speak when I'm feeling super uncomfortable. So that's the piece that I want to learn more about for myself.
Yeah. It's I remember getting this compliment when I was in like my early 20s. I spent like a month at this like youth spiritual camp, and at the end we all had like a person that we were like tracking the whole time, and at the end you were going to share something that you learned from them, that you admired about them. And this guy stood up, and I was his person. And I was like, oh gosh, like I didn't have what felt like a really good relationship with it, or like we didn't like connect that much. And I was like, what is he going to say? And he was like, I just really admire how, something to the effect of like, you just don't take yourself so seriously. You're like, you are the first person to laugh at yourself and just be wrong and like just giggle about it. And I was like, it was like this monumental moment for me. I was like, really? Like, yeah, like I've spent my whole life feeling like I have to be right all the time. I'm the teacher in the class. I'm the tutor. I'm the one that knows all of everything that's going on, and I can't be wrong. And being wrong is totally not in my program. And so to have made this big shift and to like step outside of that and be like, oh yeah, I said that. Oh my God, that was wow. Yeah, I was totally, yeah, and just laugh at how I'm up, was like, that's big. And I know that was a moment in my life, and it carried on for a little bit. And then, I found myself back in the program of like, now I'm like, a health and fitness, expert, or people look to me for advice, and they look to me for answers, and they look for guidance. And I want to give the best information always. I want to be, I want to kind of be that final stop for somebody where they're like, I've been searching. Oh, and you have answers. And I feel that pressure a lot to like, so, but I think more and more I realize like the value in what I could potentially bring is in the process of uncovering what I feel like are truths or answers. Because over the past 10 to 12 years of doing health and fitness, like I have meandered through a lot of different things that I feel really confident about. And some I look back on, I'm like, I'm not so confident about that anymore. I've changed my thinking. And even in this situation, it's like I do feel uncomfortable saying like, I'm struggling with this thing and I don't have an answer yet. Like I'm still not sure what's the best, what's my best path forward.
Yeah.
And, just being okay talking about things when it's like, this is a challenge, or this is a big question I have, or like, I don't know about that thing that, we're doing anymore. Like that might not be the best thing to do. That's really uncomfortable and challenging, because again, the program is, wow, like you're really smart. You really know a lot. You're like an expert. Therefore you got to have the answers. And if you want to own that, you're the person that just knows. And it's like, oh, okay, I am. And sometimes I don't, just like everybody. Like I don't know how to deal with this right now. This is really hard. And I don't want to not talk about it for the next 2 years while I try and figure it out. Yeah. And then come on the other side and be like, hey, buddy, I got these things to tell you. You didn't see the 2 years of struggling to find the answer. But I would say that when I really think about it, it's like that has been the biggest contribution to like how I feel and where I'm at today. It's like I've not had the answers to a lot of things, and I've just been, persistent in seeking out solutions and answers and evaluating, this is working, this is not working. It's like, I think the second I stop trying to figure out something new and I really think I've got it all figured out, like that's going to be the end of progress for me, for functional bodybuilding in my life. And that would be, that will be a bad day, and I don't anticipate it happening anytime soon.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, that was a doozy. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for being here for that. Nate, our therapist behind the camera, just helped us through that one. So we'll see you all next time, and we'll hit a lighter topic.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Bye.